Okay, what's up, folks? Rich Van Tassel finishing up the recap of week 2 of the NFL season. I know it's late. We had that weather delay with the Cowboys game that finally ended, so we can give you the recap of the 4 o'clock games. Of course, the Sunday night game has already started, but it is what it is. The Miami Dolphins 19-17 over the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers were leading in this game going into the fourth, had a chance to win the game at the end, and again missed a field goal. Jay Cutler, 24 of 33, 230 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Jarvis Landry did throw a pass, it was incomplete. Jay Ajayi, 28 carries, 122 yards, 4.4 yards per rush. The team altogether, however, was 32 of 111. Jay Cutler, 2 of -1. Kenyon Drake, 1 of -3. Jarvis Landry, 1 of -7. So they got essentially what they needed out of Ajayi. I know the numbers came down below the 4 yard per carry mark, but you had a situation where you tried a running play with a wide receiver. And of course, Jay Cutler, maybe a scramble. I guess he probably took a kneel down. I'm not sure if there was time left on the clock. No, there was. So he took a kneel down as well. So that's one of those things where the rushing numbers were essentially very good with 28 of 122 for Ajayi. Devontae Parker, 4 receptions, 85 yards. Jarvis Landry, 13 for 78, however. Not bad at all, but he is an explosive guy, and 13 catches for 78 yards is what? 6 yards per catch? Yeah, 6 yards exactly. Kenny Stills, 2 of 37. Only 5 guys caught passes. All of them were multiples, though. No fumbles, 1 sack. It was William Haynes. No interceptions. Kenyon Drake, 3 returns for 71 yards. That's 23.7 for a return, longest of 34. Jakeem Grant, 3 of 21. In his punt returns, Cody Parker, 4 for 4 in his field goals. For the Chargers, Phillip Rivers, 31 of 39, 331 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So a very good game for him. It's a shame they couldn't get the win. Brandon Oliver, 3 rushes, 31 yards, 10.3. Melvin Gordon, 9 for 13, 1.4, 1 touchdown. Altogether, 14 of 44, 3.1 yards, and the touchdown by Gordon. Melvin Gordon and Todd Gurley are 2 guys that came in the league as running backs and were pretty high draft picks. And I'll have to check Gurley. I don't know how he did, but these guys are kind of cooled off in their career. Keenan Allen, 9 of 100 receiving. Hunter Henry, 7 of 80. Melvin Gordon, 7 of 65. Terrell Williams, 4 of 54. No fumbles, 2 sacks, 1 for Chris McCain. And Melvin Ingram had the other one. Joey Bosa did not have a sack. Austin Eckler, 3 kick returns, 49 yards, 16.3. Not really that good. Desmond King, 1 of 17. 23-yard punt return for Travis Benjamin. Young Ho Koo, 1 of 3 in his field goals, and they lose by 3 points, and of course the game winner. So he really struggled. For Miami, they got the victory. They had to come back in this game. Jay Cutler did not turn the ball over, so that's good. They, of course, this was the first game of the season because they didn't play last week. For the Chargers, they dropped to 0-2, just not finding a way to win these games, and that's going to be very difficult in a tough division for them. So they gotta, obviously what you do with their place kicker, I don't know, but it's one of those things where they're close in these games, but they're just not finding a way to win, and at some point they will during this season, but 2 tough losses for them, and this season is not going to be very good for the Chargers. The Oakland Raiders smashed the New York Jets as expected, 45-20 for the Jets. Josh McCown, 17-25, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Matt Forte, pretty good game, 9 of 53, 5.9. Josh McCown, 4 runs for 37 yards at 7.8. Elijah McGuire, 6 of 29, 4.8. The Jets ran the ball pretty well, 25 of 126, 5 yards per carry. Jermaine Kearse, top receiver, 4 for 64. He had both touchdowns. Matt Forte, 4 for 38. Robbie Anderson, 2 for 28. Jeremy Curley, 3 for 14. Josh McCown and Khalif Raymond both lost a fumble. No sacks. 1 40-yard kick return for Khalif Raymond. Jordan Jenkins, 1 for 7. I believe it was Raymond who muffed the punt that led to a goal-to-go situation for the Raiders. 2 punt returns, 11 yards for Khalif Raymond. Chandler Cantu, 2 for 2 in his field goals. For the Raiders, Derek Carr, 23 of 28, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I'm surprised they didn't put a backup in the game, to be honest with you. Especially remembering last year you had a guy who had to come in and didn't get any time. Granted, he was the 3rd string, but you look at that, you never know what situation is going to happen. You have a situation here where you can easily get a backup in the game, get some reps, and they didn't take advantage of it. Jalen Richard, top running back, or Jalen Richard, 6 of 58, 9.7 per rush, 1 touchdown. Cordell Patterson, 3 of 57, longest of 43. I don't know if that was the touchdown, but he also had a touchdown. That's 19 yards per rush. Marshawn Lynch, 12 of 45, 3.8. He had a touchdown. 27 of 186.7 running the ball, so they did very well. Michael Crabtree, top receiver, good game for him, 6 of 83 touchdowns. Jalen Richard, 2 for 51. Maury Cooper, 4 of 33. Jared Cook, 4 of 25. Cooper's a guy I want to keep an eye on. Only 5 receptions for 62 yards this season. I'm surprised he's not coming along more than that. Carl Joseph, Johnny Holton recovered a fumble. DeAndre Washington recovered his own fumble. Carl Joseph, Khalil Mack had 1 sack. Merrill Edwards Jr., keep an eye on him. 1.5 sacks. Danico Autry had the other half sack. Cordell Patterson, 3 returns, 70 yards, the longest of 31 in the kick game. Jalen Richard, 13 yards on a punt return. Giorgio Tavecchio, 1 of 1 in his field goals. So for the Oakland Raiders, as you'd expect, being able to handle the New York Jets, the only concern I really have is Amari Cooper not getting involved, but teams maybe just shutting him down, and Michael Crabtree is picking up the slack. So we'll see what happens moving forward in the season. It's still early on. Eventually, teams are going to have to adjust. For the New York Jets, clearly you can't have the mistakes like the muff punt. Josh McCown, I don't get it. I don't see why you wouldn't put Hackenberg or Petty in the game. 17 completions, 166 yards. It was the same thing last week. A lot of completions, but not a lot of yards. Did have a fumble, so it's pretty obvious to me the Jets are trying to lose. I don't see any other reason you would put McCown in the game. And they didn't have any sacks with that defensive line. Jamal Adams did play very well, so he's a guy to keep the eye on for the Jets. Really the only story moving forward for them this season. Seattle, 12-9 over the San Francisco 49ers. We'll give you the box score and then discuss Seattle. Brian Hoyer, 15 of 27, 99 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. It's pretty obvious San Francisco can't do much with Hoyer. Carlos Hyde, the top rusher, he's a quality player, 15 of 124, 8.3 yards per rush. Matt Breida, 4 for 35, 8.8 yards per rush. 19 carries off 159 yards, 8.4 yards per rush. Very good, but your quarterback play was awful. Pierre Garçon, 3 for 26. Marquise Goodwin, 3 for 26. Receiving, Carlos Hyde, 3 of 19. No fumbles. They did have 3 sacks. Arik Armstead, Tank Carradine, and Aaron Lynch. No interceptions. Victor Bolden Jr., 3 kick returns, 71 yards, longest of 34. Trent Taylor, 3 of 40, longest of 21 in the punt. Robbie Gould, 3 for 3 in his field goals. For the 49ers. For the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, 23 of 39, 198 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Chris Carson, the top rusher, 20 of 93. Will he be the guy? 4.7 yards per rush. Russell Wilson, 12 of 34. Thomas Rawls, 5 of 4. Altogether, the team, 37 of 131. But the running back did a good job. But Russell Wilson was clearly carrying the ball at times. You don't really have 12 scrambles, and 2.8 yards per rush shows that scramble is a much higher yards per average. But Eddie Lacy did not carry the ball, so let's see what they're going to do with him. Tyler Lockett, 6 for 64 in the receiving. Doug Baldwin, 6 of 44. Luke Wilson, 3 of 25. C.J. Prosise, 3 of 22. Richard Sherman recovered a fumble. Russell Wilson fumbled. It was not lost. Bobby Wagner somehow fumbled and was not lost. I'm guessing that's the one Richard Sherman recovered. Thomas Rawls had 1 recovery. 2 sacks, Michael Bennett and Frank Clark. Bobby Wagner had the interception, so he probably fumbled it, and that's when Sherman recovered it. Tyler Lockett, 2 kick returns, 46 yards, the longest of 27. Tyler Lockett, 3 punt returns, no yards. Blair Walsh, 2 for 2. San Francisco, look, pretty simple with them. They can't really compete that much with Brian Hoyer as quarterback. Nothing else really to it. Like I said, they're not going to get rolled over in games. I think Kyle Shanahan's a good coach, and they didn't get rolled over in this game. But I'm really concerned about the Seattle Seahawks offense. Russell Wilson is, capable of making plays to win. He made one to win in this game. They did enough with that defense and a poor San Francisco offense, but they have got to figure out that offense, or, it's going to be a very competitive division. The Washington Redskins go cross-country and get the road win, 27-20. You can't really put Washington down. Look, they've won games. I know it's early on, but to go on the road and avoid the 0-2 start is good. And the Rams dropped to 1-1. Kirk Cousins, 18-27, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, proficient for him. They were able to run the ball. Rob Kelly, 12 of 78, 6.5. Chris Thompson, 3 of 77, had a 61-yarder and 2 touchdowns. That's 25.7 yards per carry. Samaje Perine, 21 of 67, 3.2. 39 of 229 for 5.9 yards per rush. You look at it, your top two guys were 6.5 and 25.7. 25.7 on 3 carries. It's not like it was one, and of course it can't be one, but you had 3 carries of long yardage, and you're still only at 5.9. So they ran the ball, give them credit, they figured it out, but you'd still got to wonder why Samaje Perine is carrying 21 times in that case. Jordan Reed, 6 of 48 receiving. Jamison Crowder, 4 of 47. Terrell Pryor, senior, 2 of 31. Chris Thompson, 3 of 29. Terrell McClain recovered a fumble. Kirk Cousins fumbled twice, recovered one of them, did not lose any of them. Jordan Reed recovered a fumble, fumbled and recovered it, did not lose it. Chris Thompson recovered a fumble. 2 sacks. Ryan Kerrigan had 1. Preston Smith the other. Mason Foster had an interception, returned to 10 yards. Chris Thompson, 16-yard return. Kick return. Jamison Crowder, 2 returns of 13 yards in the punts. Dustin Hopkins, 2 for 3 in the field goals. For the Rams, Jared Goff, 15 to 25, 224 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Pretty good. Still a young guy. Take it for what it is. Johnny Hecker, the punter, threw a pass and completed it on a fake punt. Todd Gurley, 16 of 88, so he played pretty well, 5.5 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Tavon Austin, 2 for 3. Tavon Austin does not do much in the running game in his entire career. I know they try to get him the ball, but it just hasn't worked out. And Jared Goff, 3 carries, 1 yards. 21 of 92, 4.4 yards per rush. Joel Everett, 3 of 95 in the receiving. Todd Gurley, 3 of 48, had a touchdown in the receiving game. Cooper Kupp, 3 of 33. Sammy Watkins, 2 of 30. John Sullivan recovered a fumble. Todd Gurley fumbled twice, lost one of them, recovered the other, so struggle there. Jared Goff fumbled, it was not lost. 2 sacks, one of them was split between Robert Quinn and Morgan Fox, and Alec Ogletree had the other. Aaron Donald did play in this game. Farrell Cooper, 3 kick returns, 59 yards, the longest of 34, that's at 19.7 yards per return. Tavon Austin, 3 for 18 in the punts. Tremaine Johnson, 1 of 6. Greg Zuerlein made both of his field goals. Washington, Kirk Cousins did not turn the ball over, and they established a running game. Good for them. They got the win cross-country. Give them credit. They're still going to be a competitive team this year. As for the Rams, look, a tougher opponent. Washington still had a winning record over the past 2 years. Won the division 2 years ago, so they're not a terrible team. Played well. Jared Goff had an interception, but it's going to be a mediocre season for the Rams, around 8-8. They've got to learn. Jared Goff will learn. He will get better, and we'll just keep an eye on that moving forward. And then the final game that went final late because of the weather delay, the Denver Broncos handled the Dallas Cowboys in this game, 42-17. The box score first, then we'll get into it. Dak Prescott, 30 of 50, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I didn't see the last pick. I even turned it off. With the one of them, it bounced off Des Bryant's hands. They were not able to run the ball. Dak Prescott, the top rusher, 3 of 24. Rod Smith, 2 of 8. Ezekiel Elliott, 9 carries for 8 yards. Altogether, 14 of 42.9 yards per rush. You don't usually see that with the Cowboys, but we'll discuss it more at the end. Jason Witten, top receiver, 10 of 97, had a touchdown. Des Bryant, 7 of 59, 1 touchdown. Cole Beasley, 4 of 33. Malik Collins recovered a fumble. Then he fumbled it again, but he was down on the fumble, was reviewed. Whatever, it led to a touchdown. DeMarcus Lawrence had 2 sacks. He had the only 2. Jordan Lewis, the rookie, had interception returned to 25 yards. Ryan Switzer, 1 punt return, 19 yards. Dan Bailey, 1 of 1 in his field goals. Trevor Siemian was picking the Dallas defense apart in this game. 22 of 32, 231 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. C.J. Anderson, 25 of 118, 4.7 yards per rush, a touchdown. Jamal Charles, 9 of 46, 5.1 yards per rush. Trevor Siemian, 5 of 14, 39 of 178, 4.6 yards per rush. It was all working for the Broncos offensively. Demaryius Thomas, 6 receptions, 71 yards. Emmanuel Sanders, 6 for 62, 2 touchdowns. C.J. Anderson, 3 of 36, 1 touchdown. Cody Lattimore, 2 of 22. Virgil Green had 2 receptions for 11 yards, 1 touchdown. Trevor Siemian lost a fumble. Cody Lattimore recovered a fumble. 2 sacks for Von Miller, the only 2 of the game. I thought the Cowboys' offensive line held up pretty well against Miller. They weren't able to run the ball, but clearly the Cowboys were passing a lot because they were behind. and Miller was able to get the sacks. Eventually, he's going to get the sacks. Aqib Talib returned an interception, 103 yards for a touchdown. Chris Harris Jr. had an interception, returned it 23 yards. Cody Latimer, a 25-yard kick return. Isaiah McKenzie, 2 punt returns of 20 yards. Brandon McManus missed a field goal. There was a weather delay in this game. Denver could not be stopped. They were getting like every third down conversion. Look, the Cowboys offensively, are there some concerns there? Yes, of course. The defense was not doing them any favors to really help the offense. They were forced to pass. They couldn't really get in any rhythm. They were behind, and the weather delay. Who knows? I'm not saying there shouldn't be reason for concern, but there certainly were things with the defense that I think didn't help the offense. As far as their defense, look, it was a concern coming into this year. They lost a lot of guys on the secondary. We'll have to see what happens moving forward, who gets healthy, who doesn't, what adjustments they make. But clearly, you have to have your concerns there. But there were injuries, so we'll have to see. As for the Denver Broncos, hey, Trevor Siemian is looking like he can play. I wasn't sure of it, but he certainly had a good game in this one. They were able to run the ball, and with that defense, we know they're going to be a tough team to beat. So the longer Trevor Siemian can play well, the chances that this team can actually pull off the division, we'll keep an eye on it. But certainly a very good game for him. And the Cowboys, there are concerns there. We'll have to see what happens in a game where they're not really getting, just beat down early and can be more competitive. I think things will start to balance out, but it is something to keep an eye on. All right, when the Sunday night game goes final, we'll almost certainly give you the recap of that. And remember, we appreciate all subscriptions as well. Thank you all so much.